Are we rolling? Okay, great. We're here. We're live.
Perfect.
Who's here? Who's here with us right now?
All right. Well, welcome back to What I've Learned podcast, and we're here today with Ryan Atkinson from the Atkinson Insurance Group. So, welcome. Thanks for joining us on our podcast today. And why don't we start off a little bit? I know we chatted before it started, but with who you are, where you're from, you know, kind of your little bit of your backstory, and then what you're currently doing now.
Okay.
Do you have any tattoos that we can't see?
No tattoos. No tattoos. Well, our office, we're in Clinton Township. We're at 19 in Garfield, and we're an independent insurance agency. And we have about 15 carriers where we can quote auto and homeowners insurance through and help our customers save money. I've been in the insurance industry about 11 years, and we like taking care of our customers and giving them a good policy without compromising their coverage. You know, it's important. Having an agent, it's a lot different than going online.
So that's interesting. A lot of people can't stick to the same job for more than a couple of months. You've been there for 11 years. What has you staying in that field or in that line of business?
You know, some people have
Tell us the truth.
Some people have it. You know, I enjoy sales and helping people, right? The sales is just the money comes after, right? The selling part of it, I think I love doing the sales, and I get a lot of gratitude from it.
So your task bait, once that sale's done, you feel motivated.
That's it.
That does the trick. Okay. Does it ever get boring?
Well, this morning we had a claim, a fire claim, right? Household, $450,000 total loss. So when someone's calling you, their house is on fire, it keeps you on your toes. So it's never a dull moment. Every day is different. And, it's about putting people with the right coverage so you can tell them that they're covered. You know, there's a lot of cut rate policies out there where they skip on water backup, where they skip on personal property. And then you have to tell those customers, look, I'm sorry, you got a bad policy. You know, you paid $4 less a month, but you don't have water backup.
$4 less a month.
That's what it costs. $4 to cover your personal
You could skip
property.
that Starbucks on Monday and you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
That's crazy.
That's so if you wanted to be a firefighter growing up, this is like that moment where you get the call in the morning, there's a fire, and you're sitting there thinking, I can help with this.
That's right. That's right.
Cool. All right, that sounds fun.
So you started at a different insurance company, right, before you opened up your own?
Yeah, originally, I worked at ABC Warehouse back when I graduated high school, right? I sold car stereos. I sold CD players, cell phones, and then 9/11 happened and the economy crashed.
Right.
So after that, I went and sold cars, and then the cash for clunkers.
The fact that you just brought that up, I think our governor brought up the fact that 9/11 compares to the pandemic that we're going through. What's your thoughts on that, man?
Well, I mean, being in sales for 20 years, right? We've been through so many disasters, so many economic problems. You had
so you're like a pandemic expert.
I am
in a way.
Yeah, expert for sure. But you just got to keep your head down, right? Like there's always people that are shopping for insurance or they need a service, and if you can create that value without having them jump through hoops and get it done, then they send you business. They send you referrals, and that's what it's all about.
So do you look out your window looking for smoke signals?
I do. I don't chase ambulances, right? But when you got a big network,
you're not Ryan Bernstein, are you?
No.
Awesome. So back to it, you said you started at ABC Warehouse.
Yeah.
Right? Working at ABC Warehouse.
So I started at ABC Warehouse doing commission sales there. And, you just kind of I had to switch gears, right? When 9/11 happened, I went and sold cars. And then when that went down, I had to go do mortgages. I worked at Quicken Loans for a little while. And we all know how that turned out, 06, 07, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I had to walk away. And I went into insurance. So there I started at Allstate. And,
so when you worked at Quicken, were you doing mortgages?
Yeah, I did mortgages nationwide. I had a book of 20, 25 deals ready to go, but not one of those deals in 06, 07 would appraise for value.
Right.
So I was basically treading water, right? I was calling and making friends, but I wasn't putting any deals on the table.
So you were just calling and talking all day.
Making buddies. I mean, it doesn't pay the bills, right? So from there, I decided to go to insurance, and I started at Allstate, which was great.
Right.
But that's a captive agent. That's what they call a captive agent. Just like your State Farms, your AAA and Allstate, they only got one product to sell. So then when the rates go up, when someone has a claim, you're kind of stuck. You watch them go to another company. There's really not much you can do.
So it's not a good thing or a bad thing if you decide to go with a top name brand or a well-known franchise, for example, What made you kind of open this agency differently that you have right now?
Well, I said, well, if I've only got one company that I can sell, why don't I look at the independent office? And I was at Allstate for about 8 years, and I was discouraged about going independent because there are so many different underwriting processes. There's so many different forms. There's a whole different ballgame for each company. And it discouraged me because there was a lot of work, right?
Right.
But just one day I said, look, this makes sense. If I can offer a customer more options, why don't I do that? And one day I decided, hey, let's just go for it. And here we are 2 years later.
Right. So what you're saying to the industry, if you're looking to get involved in a service-based business, if you can offer more services under one umbrella, it's going to enhance your lifestyle, your business, and probably your income.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And also you're taking care of your customer way better than you would in the circumstance if you're just limited. And unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't work for everybody, and sometimes it does. But then are you trading off a lot of that business when it doesn't?
What's nice being able to have everything under one roof, it's less paperwork. The customer is properly protected. They can call and talk to a live person and not an 800 number. So it streamlines the process for the client when there's an emergency or when they're at the car dealership at 6 o'clock at night buying a new car. They need a proof of insurance. So being able to do that stuff on a web-based system, I could do it from the office or I can do it from home.
Yeah.
As long as I pick up the phone.
Right.
Right. So.
Or you can call a call center in India at midnight.
Absolutely.
Hello, my name is Bub.
Right. Exactly.
I can't do Indian accents, but that's okay.
So I have to ask, because a lot of people we talk to, especially when you go off on your own, you started at Allstate, right, before you opened this up. Was there like a big turning point or like a moment that you're like, I gotta get out of here, or I'm gonna go on my own and start it? Was there that kind of moment that hit you?
Yeah, the light came on when the captive agents, they took rate increases. See, insurance.
What does that mean for normal people like us?
Great question. Insurance, they calculate your rate based on the law of large numbers. So, for example, if you live in Macomb County, 48044, they're going to go by how many losses have happened in that year, right? Divided by how many clients they have, and then boom, comes out your new rate.
Right.
So when you only have one customer, like let's say, for example, 4 or 5 years ago, tornado went down like 22 in Hayes. And if you drove down 22 in Hayes, all you saw was fences tipped over. So everybody in Macomb County got a rate increase on their homeowners. So when you're stuck with one carrier, that's when the light went on. I said, I need to have something else to offer these customers because my friends, my family, the network that called me to set them up, they shop rates and they leave because I couldn't offer them anything else. So that's when the light went on. I decided, hey, I need to have a bigger portfolio. I need to have a bigger network to take care of my customers I work so hard to get.
That's the interesting concept, though, even when it comes down to when we take the perspective of real estate as well. We are looking to help you buy, help you sell, help you invest. Sometimes if you're a broker or depending upon your state, you're looking to get involved in property management. A lot of people are into flipping or syndicate investments of grouping people together and buying apartment buildings or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And if you limit yourself, I feel like when the market goes up and down, the people that don't seem to last, and this is advice for someone who is looking to set business up, is that you need to consider, are you built to last during all market cycles, ups and downs?
Yeah, that's great.
Can your business actually handle the roller coaster? So I think it's important that you start finding your second and third, fourth services within your umbrella so that you stay busy no matter what the market is doing.
Absolutely.
Do you agree?
I agree. 100%. 100%. The more value you can add for your customer, it's going to benefit everybody.
And also makes you master of your craft. Like if you're going to spend your life in a career. So I asked you that question, how did you stay in it for 11 years? It's a long time. A lot of people are, frazzled after year number 2 or 3 at a certain place, and they just want to switch jobs to even into something completely different. And that's fine. But is that what you want to keep doing for years to come? Do you always want to kind of have your bet on a company when it opens up new and you just hope for the best?
Well, there's that salesperson pedigree, right? You either have it or you don't. So if someone's going to dive into a commission-only sales job, they have to put in the work ethic. They have to treat their customers respectfully and answer the phone and not duck phone calls. They have to talk the talk, right, and walk the walk and make sure that they're giving a good product, but they're actually doing the service that they're out there to provide.
I agree. When I relocated to Michigan a few years ago, I remember having this conversation because I had done real estate already for 11 and something years by the time I had relocated. And I remember agents returning phone calls 2 days later. And I would think to myself, are you freaking nuts right now?
It's unacceptable.
No, I just didn't understand this level of unprofessionalism. Like, I don't care if you have 3 other jobs. That's great. But why are you doing this business and just poorly serving your client? Your client's definitely suffering. I know for a fact that your client's not getting the representation that they need or require. You're handling their largest asset of their whole life, and you're treating it like a joke.
Absolutely.
So I remember turning over to my wife and saying, I'm going to kill it here. And she said, what does that mean? I said, I'll show you. Just give me a few months. I'll show you what that means. And so when it comes down to clients, and you can be above average and you can have that right mindset, and then you can offer everything under the sun that relates to your primary business without getting off track. Because I think some people do get off track slightly. They find a MLM dream come true, and all of a sudden they're calling their family and friends to sign up for something that's not going to last very long. So I think you got to stay focused.
I don't think I've told this story, but when my first deal in real estate, it was a deal that it wasn't my first deal, I should say. It was like the first one that closed, but it was a real last second. We had a lender, and he had a buyer that he was working with, and their agent, they wanted to buy this property, but there was work that needed to be done to get the C of O provided for it. And the agent that was working with these clients said I don't want to deal with it anymore because she didn't think that they should be buying it with these improvements that needed to be made to get the C of O. And this lender called me and he said, hey, do you want to take these clients? The agent's releasing him from this deal, and she just doesn't want to deal with any of this stuff. Do you want to take them? And the deal was, I think this was a Thursday. The deal was set to close on a Monday. It was already in stone to close. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to work this and I'm going to get it closed. And I ended up trying to get a hold of the agent, the selling agent. And it was Friday morning. Call, no answer. I think it was Thursday night I started calling, but I called, no answer. Text, no answer. Email, no answer. I called the office. They're like, he's in a closing right now. When he gets out, I'll give him the message that you called. And I was like, perfect. Hour goes by. Called the office. I'm like, hey, do you guys get a hold of him? Yeah, we gave him the note. All right, well, he hasn't called me back. And they're like, we'll try calling him.
We gave him the note.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right. So they call me back. You couldn't get a hold of him. I'm like, who is this guy? First of all. So I look him up, and this guy's been in the business for years. And he's
not a part-time brain surgeon, was he?
Yeah, well,
performing some kind of miracle.
I'm like, what's going on here? How is this guy so busy? And he still hasn't returned. I'm texting, emailing, calling. I'm like, hey, I want to get this deal closed. Do you not want to get this deal closed? Let's get this deal closed. I had to get my broker to call. I called him and I'm like, hey, this agent, he's not calling me back. I'm trying to get this deal closed and he's not calling me back. Can you contact his broker and have him get in touch with me? Because we have a deal that's supposed to be closing Monday and I can't get a hold of this guy. And he's like, oh, I know who this agent is. Been in the business a long time. So he personally calls him himself. 2 minutes later, I get a phone call. So obviously he answered this guy. He had time to answer the broker that he knew, and he calls me back, and he
probably had the number saved. And he's had a few calls from him in the past.
Yeah,
once or twice.
He just has this attitude with me right off the bat, who do you think you are? How long you been in the business? And I'm like, I don't know why this matters. I'm trying to give a conversation with you to make sure that this deal.
I think the bigger question here was, what are you calling me for? So if he could understand what the call was around, what was based around, it would have solved the issue.
Well,
what role did it play of how long you were involved in the business? That's kind of one of the points I'm making. When you're dealing with people that don't understand the value of the customer, the questions are all wrong. The focus is all wrong.
Yeah,
it really messes up what's good for the customer.
Yeah. Long story short, this deal closed.
Good.
And it was crazy. But it was a perfect example of my first experience of, wow, realtors do make a bad name for themselves by not servicing. If this is how he treats me, this has to be how he treats his clients.
Absolutely.
Because there's no way that you would just destroy a relationship before it even started with in terms of potentially closing deals if this isn't how you you do deals in general. And a quick little funny follow up to this: a couple months later, being on the board of Grosse Pointe Board of Realtors, we had this charity fundraiser euchre tournament. Random tables. There was like, I want to say 40 some people there, and you draw chips to see who your partner is, and then you draw another chip to see what your table is. I can't make this up. I was his partner 5 times in a row.
See?
5 times in a row. Yeah. We were partners. Mm-hmm. It was just the craziest thing. And it was definitely awkward. It was definitely an awkward five rounds in a row of being his partner. But he's still in business today. And after talking with other agents and stuff, it was funny because they're like, oh, yeah, he's like known for being kind of like a sleazy agent that doesn't treat his customers right and doesn't treat other agents right. And it's surprising that so many people are able to stay in the business with that, but I'm sure it's because of probably a lot of lies and just misleading that happens in a lot of deals that they do. So,
like it said, your house can be built on sand, or your house can be built on a strong foundation like concrete. So I think it all depends.
Yeah.
You can still stay alive on that house that's gonna crash and burn at some point, but. Yep. It doesn't mean you'll last in the business forever. And when he finishes his career, the unsatisfying part is that he's got no one who's going to attend his, life party at his funeral kind of thing. So it does suck if your life motivation isn't to accomplish the biggest goal at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I think everyone should get this simple concept. We can all work hard. We can all make money. But what's the impact? What was the purpose of why you did it? So your big why is important, but what matters to you? Like, you can grow up in a household, and I have a friend of mine where his mother was an alcoholic, so he cares about working programs and people around that problem so that it can get alleviated, it can bring relief. He wants to take pressure off people. So his life goal, his business does phenomenal, but it has actually nothing to do with what he actually loves doing, and he focuses more time on doing that. So I think it's all about, where did you decide to make the impact? Mm-hmm. So from you, what I'm getting, Ryan, is that you have to buckle down. You have to make a sacrifice. You have to stay stable. You have to be able to answer your phone as a professional if you're in the service industry.
Well, not only that, if you're going to answer the phone, right? How many times does your phone ring and you got groceries in your hand, or your kid on your hip, or you're driving? You got to pick up the phone, take a deep breath, and actually show that you care, right? Take the 2 seconds, let the customer talk, and don't send them to voicemail. Pick the phone up and see what's going on.
Yeah, keep it simple. Mm-hmm. I had a phone call from a friend of mine today from Toronto, and we used to work together a long time ago, and he was talking about. He was asking me questions more around the fact of how and where and when should he establish a real estate team, or a team delegating around a business that you have. It doesn't even have to be real estate per se. And the conversation that we exchanged back and forth together was really, we were talking about getting people on board that had the same vision. First of all, does everyone care about servicing their clients and sacrificing, and do we have the same values? Do we care about all the same things? And putting that all together, and also me and him were kind of talking about him attending a conference, which he enjoyed. And I said, so you got really motivated, but did you really get anything out of it to apply to your business? He said, no, not really. But when I did the boot camp version, that's when I got a few tips on what I could do to make my next year of business better. And then we had the conversation around getting everyone on the same page. Okay. So you've got to make sure that they're all doing money-making activities if you're in a certain type of business, like commission-based, right? Because it becomes stressful. There's massive ignorance around the financial structure that you need to create to be successful and sustain yourself. I rarely come across people who have their finances in order. What did that look like for you when you were starting up this business? Like, what did you think you would have to do? Did you have to start living differently or living off less income to establish your business?
Absolutely. I think starting back in, say, a commission sales when I just got out of high school, it kind of trained me mentally to prepare financially, because in commission sales, what happens, it's like a roller coaster.
Give me an example. How would you manage your money? So you get a check for, I don't know, $5,000.
Yeah.
And you might not see one again for 3 months.
Sure.
How do you manage that?
Well, 18 years old, living at home, getting a check that big. What did I do first? I bought
rims on a
I
Mustang.
bought my mom a car, right? And I put my sisters through school, right? But then when all that stuff is done, you got to put a nest egg, you got to save, and you got to live below your means. So I did that for 8 years, right? And then I switched over to sales at Allstate, and then finally opened my own business. It's the same concept. Just because you have one strong month, the next month isn't guaranteed. And what happened in March? COVID, right? Our doors closed for 4 months. I'm working from home and doing virtual meetings instead of face-to-face. So you got to expect.
Were you zoomed out?
Yeah, you got to expect the unexpected, right? So you got to prepare, and you can't just go on vacation and buy things that don't matter, that you don't need. You got to keep that and reinvest in your people and in your company, and so you have to create value for your customer to make sure that your offer is worth their time and yours.
Right.
Titleosity is an innovative title and escrow services company with a powerful operations team ramped up and ready to work for you. For your convenience, we cover the entire state of Michigan, offer mailaways and alternative closing options to best fit your clients' needs. Let us know how we can help build your business and make you shine all the way to the closing table. Now, over the years, our realtor partners have appreciated us, keeping them informed on the title process. Please reach out anytime that you may have any questions about the title process. We will work hard for you and your clients, and we would love the opportunity to team up. Contact Dawn Burdick at 248-761-1031 anytime.
So what I said to my previous team members was, you've got to live kind of like a student. Like, you've got to be on a really tight, strict budget. Your emphasis is not on the new car, the new place, and how expensive it's going to be to go out on Friday, Saturday night. It's got to really boil down to, I'm going to put aside this money, and this is what I have chosen to live off of. And no matter what happens, that's going to be my number. Mm-hmm. And everything I do has got to fall within that.
If you have a system, if you follow the process, if you follow your system, the money will follow. You can't focus on the money, because the first 2 months that I was open, I think we sold maybe $15,000 worth of premium, right? And for a whole office, that's pretty low. But then in month 3 and 4, we got some support staff, and then it doubled, tripled. And that's where the magic is, right? Is when you actually have a process and you follow it, no matter what, good or bad month, money will follow later.
So you believe in delegation?
Absolutely. For sure.
How soon do you apply it?
Right away. In my business, there's 2 categories. You have sales, and then you have service, right? And they all under one roof. So if you have a team that can service your customers simple questions like changing a car out, or then you have sales where their daughter just moved to college and they need a renter's policy, you need to know where that customer needs to be placed for the best price and for the best coverage based on their needs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So in terms of starting off, obviously opening up a whole new business is not an easy task. What's the biggest thing you learned in terms of building it from the ground up, the foundation? What was the biggest hurdle and the biggest thing that kind of came out of your starting your own company?
Training, because you have new people that are either green or they're not in the business at all. People who are just graduating who want to get into sales. We had to make a whole. I actually made a best practices guide, right? Mm-hmm. And it's 15 pages or so. It's kind of like a script. If this customer is calling for this is what you say. If they're calling to follow up on a quote, this is what you say. If they've hung up on you 5 times, you use this page, right? And my philosophy is you call them 3-4 times, 2 or 3 days apart, and you get 2 or 3 no's until you get the yes. And even when they tell you no on the 4th time, the lead still isn't dead. It goes back in the funnel, and you call them 5 or 6 months later. And
because every 6 months you can touch
this
base.
Is Ryan. It's like a warm hug from grandma. I'm just calling you back to see how you're doing. And the rates are different. You got new discounts. Maybe they had a DUI, right? And the rates were too high back then. But when the DUI falls off, now it's the floodgates open. They have all these options. Because tickets and accidents are the biggest thing. When you have a claim or you have a ticket, it stays on your record for 5 years. 30%, 20 to 30% surcharge is what you would get if you got a speeding ticket today. So if you put those notes, if you keep good notes, that's a big one. You got to keep good notes for each customer, no matter what. No big note, small note. It's got to go in there with a follow-up reminder in your calendar. Because let's face it, we have all these customers. We can't keep it straight. So if you have your CRM and you keep that tight and you show your team how to keep that tight, everybody's doing the same thing, then you're running on all cylinders.
Now, in terms of for people in sales, whether it's real estate, insurance, wherever they're at, how important, because I know how important it is, but how important would you rate having a good CRM and system in terms of your success in your business?
It's almost as important as having snacks in the fridge.
That's important.
It's got to be up there. Yeah, you have to have a good CRM system. There are low cost ones out there. There are medium cost ones. Then you have Salesforce, right? Those high caliber ones that'll do everything for you and change your shoes. Whatever you can afford, you need to budget that out and implement that before you start dialing. Because let's face it, the Excel spreadsheets, I can't look at them. Yeah, no, it's not going to work.
And like you said, I having to remember what each client, their story, where they're at, any details that you have. Me personally, I can't, I'll talk to somebody and I know their face, like face to face. I'm like, what's their name? And it's no different than when I'm like on the phone or whatever. And I can't, luckily I had a client call me just the other day, and I bought her or helped her buy her condo last year about this time, and now she wants to move to the other side of the state. And she loves cats. She's got like her fourth cat, and they're like these Siamese, it's like special expensive cats. And I had in my notes on the CRM of what her cats' names were. So before I called her back, I just pulled up my CRM, and I knew she loves cats and loves her cats. And I was able to just list off like, hey, how's Peanut and Princess? And like
well, how are they? How is Peanut and Princess?
She sent me like 8 pictures after that of the cats.
It's amazing.
And but
you can message Grant. He can forward them to you if you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah, so it's not that I remember she had the cats, but I can't, it's not like I can remember names of a client's cats from a year ago, and the CRM helps to maintain and build that relationship.
Right. And I think you're just being really honest about that, because nobody can keep track of everything mentally. Like, you can do a fairly good job, but the interesting part is that we're talking about making a huge effort to keep your business and show people how important they are, because they're the ones that really matter. And what you're doing is you're taking time out of your day to read the CRM, which you don't have to do. You don't have to care. You don't have to bother. But the fact that you're doing it is separating you from everyone else who's not about or concerned to do that.
Yeah, and the CRM we use is called Follow Up Boss. It's a pretty real estate centric CRM. And the big thing I love about it is I can make calls off of it, and it records every call.
Perfect.
And I can go back through and listen again and make any notes. I don't have to sit there and worry about trying to write down everything. I can go back and write names of their family members, kids, birthday, anything that I've gotten out of that call, I can go back through, put it in the notes. So again, next time around, I can give that kind of world-class customer service and relationship where, and eventually I probably will remember going back through it enough and looking at it, but I can't be nobody can be expected to remember, your
it's just
7th grandkid's name. But I know that's really what builds the relationships over the long term, as I'm sure you've kind of figured out over the years, is having those relationships.
People want you to care, just like you said. It's high level service. It's taking the 2 seconds to listen to them, right, and actually see what's going on, and then taking the time after the sale to put that in there, because what's going to happen is they're going to have family who needs a referral, and all of those reminders. Putting the notes in with a calendar reminder is the best way to go. The notes are great, but if you don't put a reminder in for 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 4 days out, you're going to forget, especially if you're making 100 calls a day, right?
For sure
doing
you are.
10 quotes.
Yeah, even if you make 10 calls a day, you're still going to forget.
Yeah, so having that high level service, I would definitely recommend that to anyone who's going to start their own business.
Yeah,
for sure.
Take the example of your internet provider, and you know who I'm talking about. As frustrated as you get with them, because there's no service, there's no response, there's no resolution. They don't care.
Yeah, they transfer you to the next person.
Unless you cancel and transfer to your wife's name or your spouse's name.
I can't tell you how many times
you're going to see a lot of care and candor pretty quick. But so what you want to do is create your business around the foundation of loving and caring for people. That's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
And if you don't like what you're doing and you don't like caring for people, I don't know what to tell you.
That's it.
You're going to have a tough time. You're going to have to do a churn and burn.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work very long because you have to usually move on.
Right.
Because like that agent that you talked about, that reputation that he created sucks.
It's not a good one.
Yeah,
I bet you he answered the phone like that to a lot of people.
Oh,
right.
I guarantee
so,
it.
if you got to close your eyes and go to the happy place before you pick up the phone, then that's what you got to do until you get into a rhythm.
Yep. Absolutely.
I
It's
agree.
important.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us something that we don't know about you.
I can't swim
Personal.
very good. If you put me in the deep end, I won't last very long.
Bye, Ryan. Do you have insurance for that?
Yeah, life insurance. That's what we need for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know I wanted to touch off of our last episode, and I think this might be something I want to hit on for anybody we bring on, because especially having your own company, running your own company, and especially in sales, we're always working after hours. It's not a 9 to 5 o'clock. I'm checking out. I don't have to talk to anybody anymore. It could be 10 o'clock at night, and you're getting a phone call like the house burned down, and it could be
Every
anything.
day.
And and how is it that you can balance work and life? What are a couple things you've learned and some key points that have kind of helped you to be able to balance that and keep your sanity? Because I know if you don't do it, your sanity's out the window.
I'm a single dad. My daughter, she's 9 years old. In
Tell
third
us
grade.
all your wisdom.
Third grade. And, when you're a single dad, you got two hats, right? You got dad and then you got work. What I found to be very helpful is to put it away. When you go home, when you pick her up from school, take the time, be present, go to the park, make dinner, and do all those things you're supposed to do. And then it'll be night time. And after night time, you can make yourself a coffee and turn on the laptop. I get more done between 8 p.m. and 11 or midnight, depends, than I do in a typical 6-hour day because there's no interruptions. I'm in the comfort of my own house and I'm still being dad at the same time. Having that work-family balance is so important because kids grow up so fast, right? And you're doing it all for them ultimately anyway, to have that legacy or to provide for them the life you didn't have growing up. So I think that's important, is to be present, right? And you can still separate the two, but it's time management. Yeah. I think to answer your question, time management is key because those hours, you could catch up on Netflix or you could go to the bar with your homies. With COVID, we're not going nowhere, but
You can go to the Zoom bar.
You can go to the Zoom bar. Having those relationships are important, but if you're building a business and if you're really heads down and focused on your goals, then you're going to make that time to work those extra hours. We call them third shift. Right. Yeah. And it's just a reminder that, there's always work to be done. You don't have to call people at 10 o'clock at night. That's why their email is good because it goes right on their phone while they're laying there watching Netflix and they can respond. And, last night, did 3 deals last night on the laptop. So that time management, it could be any time. I like to go in blocks, maybe 4 hours at a time during the day, take a break, catch my thoughts, and then go right after it again. So that's how I make it work. And it's not perfect, right? But it's worked so far.
Good.
Well, the cool thing is nothing's perfect and you can always change it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what you're doing is fantastic because now you're not missing out on the time that you want with your family. So even if you don't have kids, there's still loved ones in your life that you could do the same thing with.
Right.
And the impact that you're making in their lives, and I think that's what one thing COVID's taught us is that we want to kind of rearrange our priorities that were kind of messed up. I think it's kind of opening eyes for a lot of people in different perspectives. What was I doing before and why was I even doing that? Well, I didn't need to make all those extra meetings because they didn't have any point to them. Now we're getting more efficient and zoned in. And if you're not, you should.
I agree.
And so what you said, which was really impactful, is that you did your best work from 8 to 11. So that almost tells us that if you are focused and zoned in and you make it efficient, you make it work because you care about the other things that you would like to do too. You need to have a balance. There is no success if your health is run into the ground.
Absolutely.
So if you're not taking care of yourself, there is a saying I remember from a good friend of mine who said, if you don't have your health, you're no good to anybody, including yourself.
That's right.
So you can't make an impact. You can't love on the people that you care about. And if you truly do, then separate that time.
I'm terrible.
Because we only have a little bit of time.
I'm terrible with remembering who these quotes are by. I've somehow remembered a lot of quotes, and I don't remember who they're by.
Right.
I should keep like a list of them. And I want to say it was either Gary Keller or past president of Coca-Cola or Pepsi, one of these companies, and they talked about that. You have a lot of balls that you have to keep juggling, right, in life, and there's only 2 though that are glass balls that you cannot drop, and that's health and family. And because if you drop them, they can shatter and they're unfixable damage sometimes. Where everything else is to a degree had rubber, and it'll bounce back. Careers can bounce back. Work can bounce back. Money can bounce back. But if you
and it absolutely can.
Yeah.
How many stories have we heard of people bouncing back from work?
Yeah.
100%.
And how many people do you
day.
hear a story about, guess what, I just bounced back from my marriage that fell apart 5 years ago? Mm-hmm. I've never heard that story as often as I would like to hear that story.
Yeah.
But yeah,
relationships are so
point.
much harder to do. And, I just remember that quote all the time. And I think, and I'm not the best at it in terms of, I don't think I've destroyed any relationships, but I do know that I need to be better at juggling it in a better way. And I put a definitely point on health. That's one of my big things. But I do know relationships is easily a place that I can improve on. I wouldn't say it's in a bad place, but it's definitely in my interpersonal relationships. I don't call enough, grandparents, things like that. I feel like that I should. And like you said, as your kid's growing up fast, it's time just doesn't stop turning. And I think making sure that personal relationships are in balance, whether it's with your kids or anybody in the family, is definitely a huge point. And
yeah. And also going back to all the quotes that we can't remember who wrote them, I remember a ton of quotes that revolve around once the time escapes you, you can't get it back. And that just goes back and forth to the wisdom that we've been seeking from Ryan today. You've got to separate the time to spend with your family or your loved ones and do the things that you really care about or the things that you are trying to make an impact in life. And, I got this recent issue of a Realtor magazine, and it just gives me great pleasure to open it up and read it and read articles of realtors who have spent the last couple of years making impactful charities and causes that are making a huge difference, especially during a time of when we've had some closures and people have suffered a lot more greater depression, and there's been a lot more suicide on the rise. So if that is you, in the episode links after this episode, we are going to connect you with some charities you can reach out to if that is one thing that has affected you during this time. And please feel free to shoot us any questions on things that we feel that can help your routine be healthier than it normally is. We're going to bring on, in the very near future, a fitness professional who's going to share those insight thoughts with us as well. So on a fitness perspective, do you ever work out?
Hardly ever.
Right.
Hardly ever.
With that kind of schedule, where would you fit it in?
We used to do basketball twice a week, but then when COVID came, the gyms, the basketball gyms and the schools, they're all closed down. Being at the desk, I think the most working out I do is I wiggle the mouse and, up the stairs to my condo. That's pretty much as I do. But chasing my daughter around the park, that you can do that. But do it before bedtime, because then they go right to sleep. That's a little tip. Do it before bedtime, 6, 7 o'clock. You're welcome.
That fresh air.
Yeah, gets them every time.
Gets them.
Now, in terms of pandemic, obviously you mentioned earlier that your office had closed down for 4 months. Has the pandemic affected your business at all in terms of,
things are crazy. The crazy thing, life is crazy.
Life is crazy. Correct.
2-3 of these months, we've done over $100,000 worth of premium during the pandemic, working from home, doing Zoom meetings, and you didn't think that was going to even be possible. The doors are closed. You can't have people come in, but you can still call them from home. You can still get on the phone and email. So
what does that do for your perspective when you look at the efficiency of your business, not doing it traditionally? Mm-hmm. What does that do for your perspective? Well, how does that make you change the way you think?
Taking life experience and actually applying the lessons that I've learned along the way over the past 20 years in sales, you can't... you just got to keep going, right? You're going to make your 100 calls a day. You got to do your 10 quotes. You got to follow up with your current customers and take care of your current clients before you go and get new ones, right? And having a routine has really helped. Taking those notes and using the calendar, super important, keeps me organized. I think that has contributed to it. But guess what? Everybody's home. When I call, they pick up the phone. They're not at the bar. They're not at the restaurant. They're not at a concert. They're not at a ball game. They're at home. So I'm calling. And
well, unless they're at Costco getting that last roll of toilet paper.
Hey, we can leave a message.
I'll call you right back. That's the last one. I got to go.
And we keep the messages under 45 seconds.
Right.
You don't want to leave a long-winded message on the phone. You want to talk clear. You want to be upbeat and energetic. You want to leave nice formatted emails in their inbox so it doesn't look like gibberish. You got to care. And taking that extra time on every customer goes a really long way, and it shows professionalism, and it shows that you know what you're doing. And I think that goes a long way. It's helped us a lot.
Tell me, what's the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of my job would be...
That affects your life in general. That you feel that if you could change it, it would make a difference.
You know, the biggest problem I have right now is following up on quotes that we've already quoted and haven't sold yet. There's probably 300 in my queue right now that we could call back and see what they thought about the quote, right? We have plenty that are calling and saying, hey, we love your rate. But there's all those other ones who get busy. Life gets busy. They have emergencies. They have family things going on. We need more support staff. So we're going to hire another salesperson to go through that CRM and clean up those past due leads. Right. Nothing's perfect, but you can't be afraid of fixing it or failure, right? So that would be my biggest failure. There's probably 300 people that could be called right now that need touches. And we got to hire somebody to do that full time.
So just a little bit of housekeeping.
I think
just a little bit of maintenance.
Good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that would be great, and those people would see value in it, because right now they're overpaying those 300 people, right? We sent them quotes that were worth, saving. So, getting the time back in the day to do that is going to help us out, and into the new year, I think we'll attack that first.
I like your perspective.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So overall, obviously you've seen a good amount of success in the last 2 years, opening up your own company, and moving forward. Out of everything, what's the biggest thing that you think you've learned about yourself, maybe about your business, that's really kind of changed your whole, I guess, career, your trajectory? Because you went from big company to yourself and made it, right? You're successful in it. What's the?
Well, he's wearing a jacket, so
yeah,
he's clearly made it.
Yeah. What's like the one thing that you've learned? Like, just it kind of brings it all together in terms of, the biggest life lesson, I guess, that's got you your success today.
That's a great question. I think the biggest thing I learned that anything's possible, right? When you're in commission sales, it's very cliche, but there's no ceiling. You got to push the ceiling further and further, and if you put the work in, you're going to see the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned. Like, you have these visions, right? And then when you beat those visions, you're like, wow, I did it, right? With hardly any people. And then you hire some more staff, and then it goes up more. You're like, wow, the place didn't burn down. I actually did it. So, having a positive attitude is really
off-topic question, but do you have a window office?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have a window office. But having, I think, a positive attitude, because there's a lot of things, right? People complain about anything. They'll complain about traffic. They'll complain about the line at the grocery store. They'll complain about anything.
Just go on Facebook.
Yeah. And if you just block all...
That's all Facebook is almost.
If you can just block out that noise and worry about your own self... My grandma used to say that. People are full of fluff, Ryan. People are just worry about yourself. And having a positive outlook has really helped me and my family this year in the business. So I think that's the biggest thing I learned, having a positive attitude.
So what stops you from basically, you hit the goals, hit the ceiling. So once you work your way up from the start of nothing, what is stopping you from, say, expanding Atkinson Insurance into every city nearby?
It's funny that you said that. We're
getting a big reveal today.
Yeah. In June, we started a nonprofit organization. It's called New Possibilities Financial Group, Educational Group. And we have an accountant. We have the insurance guy. We have a financial services guy and a life insurance guy and a health insurance guy. And we do these free workshops at the library. We were doing them at the senior centers. And we're offering free workshops, free information, education for people so they can make informed decisions about their financial and health wellness. And it's really exploded. Now we're in partners with the Fraternal Order of Police in Michigan. There's 10,000 members there. We're in talks with the Salvation Army, and there's so many members that we can help. And you can get licensed in any state. So maybe next year we'll find a warm state that I can get licensed in, maybe Florida or Arizona or Texas, and see about getting an office out there. So the sky's the limit.
Love it.
It's fantastic.
Thank you.
So that impact you're making in the community, what brought it up? Like, what made you think about doing that?
My partners at the office, Kurt and Dean and Steve and John, all of them, we just have the vision of helping people, right? And the nonprofit has opened up so many doors where we can help people. I mean, there's people who don't understand insurance. They don't know what collision coverage is. They don't know what personal injury protection is. Our tax guy, people don't know their taxes. So what we do is we have these individual workshops designed for a specific topic, and it's only about that topic. So in July, the whole state of Michigan decided to flip no-fault auto insurance upside down. The whole thing. So in July, everybody is shopping insurance. So what we decided to do is educate people what the new laws and new discounts are. And when they see value in that, then they're going to call us for a quote. So, it's really helped.
Awesome. Where do people find these classes now during closures? Where do you go to get this education?
What we're doing is we're putting them on Facebook, and we're doing WebEx meetings, virtual meetings. Before, we were going right in there, taking donuts, shaking hands. But now we kind of switch gears, and we'll
take the donuts, but don't shake hands.
Yeah. So now you just do it virtual.
Once you sanitize first.
Just like you said, it's more efficient. We
Right.
can do it from our home. We don't got to drive to Battle Creek and Bad Axe and up north and Sault Ste. Marie. You can do it right in your house. And then if people want to join in on the meetings, they can just join virtually right from their home. Just like with auto insurance, you can sign your contracts now electronically via DocuSign. I last month, I don't think I had one person in the office. They did it all virtual. They sign their documents electronically, and then you have a mobile app on your phone. You have your proof of insurance card. It's super efficient now.
Do you mind if we share the link for your nonprofit educational group so that people that are out there that want to learn more about it, they can have no pressure, no obligation, no stress.
Sure, absolutely.
Around asking embarrassing questions and just learn.
Absolutely.
The way it should be.
The information should be there, and it's the value add for people. There's a lot of information and changes that are going on, and you want to make an informed decision so you don't get a liability later, right? You have the cost of your insurance to prevent the expense of a claim kind of thing, but you can apply that to anything. If you're dating and you're going to the bar, you're not going to be dating very long. So you gotta know what's going on.
We're going to share that wonderful link with you in the comments of the podcast. Ryan is free from fake news rejection of Facebook, so don't you worry. You're going to get some good information from him.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we've gotten a lot of good information from you, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a wealth of knowledge in terms of your history and starting a company on your own, right? And there's a lot of
congratulations.
There's a lot of things in terms of just regular business, right? There's no rocket science behind it, and you've taken the core principles of any business, and especially any sales or customer service business, and you made success out of it, and that's awesome. And we're glad to have you on again. And,
thank you. I hope to come back. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. The wealth of knowledge, and I don't know if you got.
Thanks for sharing your time with us today.
Yeah.
And we know you got to go home and do laundry, so
thank you guys. Great
awesome.
to be here.
And again, thanks to Dandelion Studios for always with the great hookup and the mobile hookup today.
We're on the road
podcast,
today.
So we appreciate it. So thank you, Ryan. And
thank you.
This has been What I've Learned podcast.
Thank you.